Hey, what's up everyone? Boozor here. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to go over the brand new HYDRA rotation that just dropped yesterday. We are on rotation 6 of the HYDRA clan boss. Each rotation goes on for a month. There's a total of 6 rotations, meaning 6 different combinations of HYDRA heads. We'll have a quick look here. So this is the current combination. I'll go into it in more detail. I have a spreadsheet here that I put together for you guys. It's more like an infograph just to make things a little bit easier. I will move my head over here. Alright, so we are on rotation 6. So we're looking at the head of Decay, the head of Torment, the head of Wrath, and the head of Mischief. So an interesting stat that I've actually found out was that the head of Decay and the head of Mischief, so the cleansing head and the buff steel head, they show up in 5 of the 6 rotations in the starting lineup. So, if you were to focus on champions specifically for HYDRA, ideally you would find champions for these heads since they're in most of the starting rotations. But so we have a spirit cleansing head. So that means champions like Husk or Force provokers might have a little bit more difficult time dealing with head of decay with weak hits and stuff. So that's something to consider. So we have the head of torment, which is the fear head. Applies fear if you attack it. It's a force affinity this time. So the fear head, it's easily countered if you have the right champion, and that right champion is Inquisitor SHAMAEL, this champion right here. So he's an epic. He's one of the best epics or most impactful HYDRA epics that I think is currently available, just because he counters this head so hard, and he not only counters it. Not only does he make the fight very easy and consistent, he makes your team better. So, and you could have a very weak team, but if you have SHAMAEL versus the Torment head, you can make your team stand out like really, really well. So we'll go over some more of the champion choices after I finish off the heads here. So you got Head of Wrath, which is the big damage head. It's Force affinity, which is probably the worst affinity, just because Force counters Mighty Uko. No, sorry, Force counters Ugo, the Epic, which is the generally the block buff specialist, and AoE defense down. So if the Head of Wrath, basically, if Ugo weak hits the Head of Wrath, then the block buff doesn't get applied, and then the Head of Wrath gets attack up, block, gets reflect damage, gets all this crazy stuff, and then he one-shots your team, and then you're sad. So, the Force affinity is really troublesome that way. And then lastly, we have the Head of Mischief, which is the steel head. So it steals your buffs. It targets the champion with the most buffs. So you can manipulate the head a little bit, and then it boosts its own turn meter. It steals turn meter from you. So it's a bit of a annoying head. It's also quite fast. Also has the highest accuracy. I have the stats of all the HYDRA heads on the right hand side right here. You guys can have a quick look based on whatever difficulty you guys are dealing with: normal, hard, brutal, nightmare. But yeah, so anyways, I'm going to go over some of the champions that you hopefully have and would want to use in this against this starting lineup. So obviously against the Head of Decay, you're gonna look for some kind of provoke champion. If you don't have provoke champion, hopefully you guys have some provoke gear. Put the provoke gear on an AoE champion or a champion with an A1, ideally with an AoE. That would be very, very strong. Good candidate would be like Mighty Uko, Nemco, like Mother Cybele. Like it's just A1 AoE. So provoke gear is not the best chance. I believe it's only 30% chance. So obviously most good champions will have higher chance than that, but it's a good backup option. Here are the other. This is basically like kind of in order of how good they are. Obviously, Krisk is like the super good provoker. Not only because he brings provoke, he brings like a bunch of other stuff. So obviously you're gonna use him. Bivolt's very good. Seeker, Husk is a backup. Provoker is very good. Molly's very strong provoker. Same thing with Skull over Vargal. And then we have other champions that can do it as well. Versolf, Sigmund, War Chief, Vizix, and Martyr. They can all do the provokes, but then they're not going to be full uptime because they have like 3 turn cooldowns at least. But the first 5 or 6 here are very solid, very high uptime. So definitely consider those. Consider provoke champions, provoke sets, obviously to deal with the head of decay. The next head of Torment. So I mentioned SHAMAEL. SHAMAEL is the key counter to this. If you have SHAMAEL, you obviously use him in your starting lineup. He'll do a ton of damage for you. Gear him with damage. Build him with good HP so he can survive a hit. He doesn't need to be super fast because he will do his counterattacks and deal damage. Without having super high speed, just give him good damage, good survivability. And the other way to deal with the head of Torment is basically have Team Veil. So Team Veil will protect your team against the fears. So, what comes to mind is like Duchess, Rector, Tatora. They all have Team Veils. And then they bring various utility. Duchess being the best because she brings a lot of utility as well as AoE damage reduction and speed aura. The other way to deal with the fears actually is to cleanse them off. So you could have cleansers like Riho. Riho's really good because she like naturally has like one get out of jail free from the fear based on her passive because her passive reflects the fear back. And then she can cleanse her team off with the fear. Riho is very good. Any cleanser will work to help. Obviously not ideal, but it works. And if you have champions like Tuhanarok or Doom Priest that passively remove debuffs, it can be very strong against the Fear Head, assuming that it's the only debuff on your champions. So I put Tuhanarok and Doom Priest here as substitutes, but obviously you're going to be looking for SHAMAEL and AoE Veil champions if possible to deal with the Head of Torment. Okay, so next head, obviously we have the Force Affinity Head of Wrath. So this guy's the big hitter. He's going to one-shot your team very often. You're going to need block buffs and attack down. So block buffs will shut down his attack up, and then attack down will make his hit even less. So strong candidates for this is the obviously Ugo. Ugo, you'll probably have him built for a HYDRA for every rotation. She's just extremely good, the best epic. I put her as the best epic for HYDRA just because she brings so much and it's basically super hard to replace her. I've listed out a bunch of alternatives here, but honestly there's not a lot of very obvious AoE block buff champions. Bishop's very good. He brings accuracy down, some healing, some shields. Uko is very good. Probably a pretty strong carry for HYDRA. He brings the attack down as well, so he brings a good package against the Head of Wrath. So if you have him, he's a good candidate for this rotation. Kimmy has like a soft buff removal and conditional block buff. Of course, she brings other utility, but she can fill this role as well. Lydia has a targeted block buff, which is very useful as well. Kantra is actually quite strong. She brings a lot of different debuffs. She can provoke, she can speed down. She's super tanky. She can place weaken. She can block buffs as well. She's very strong in the right team. And then we have various other lesser block buff champions. Targeted block buff, AoE block buff, but 4 turn 2 cooldown. And then these two have 3 turn cooldowns, but they bring not much utility. So, so that's one way. That's how you're going to deal with the Head of Wrath. If you have attack down, On an AoE champion, that'd be really, really helpful as well. It's not going to be that easy to get, but if you guys can find that, I think Krisk has the total package. He has attack down as well, speed down, speed up, all sorts of stuff going on with Krisk. Yeah. So for the head of Mischief, there's a couple ways to deal with it. The easiest way to deal with the head of Mischief is just to let him steal your stuff and just block the buffs that he steals, so he doesn't get to spread the buffs to the whole team. So usually that's kind of how I do it, just because building a resistance tank, it's pretty gear intensive, and you do need specific gear sometimes, like a shield set ring. Sorry, not a shield set, but a shield, no, blood shield accessory. That sometimes is needed for the resistance tank, and I actually realized that I couldn't build some tanks because I don't have the blood shield rings or accessories. So I usually just bring block buffs. Hex is really useful because it allows you to target the head when he steals one of your guys. Unfortunately, there's not too many good Hex champions. Right now we have Mithrala, which is like super good, and then we have Tila, which is also super good. Both of these champions deal good damage. Tila does way more damage, but yeah, they're both good in their own ways. They both have AoE Hex. Tila is a 4-turn AoE Hex, I believe, which is not as good. I have a pretty strong Tila, and I do find that the uptime is a little bit. There's some downtime on it, so I'm not super impressed with the 4-turn cooldown. Moranix is an AoE decreased defense with Hex. She's viable. Thylesia, I believe. She's an epic. She has decreased defense AoE and I believe AoE Hex. So also viable, but both of those champions are quite squishy, so I wouldn't take them past probably hard, unless you have very good support champions. And yeah, your main damage dealers are going to be pretty much the same. So the higher difficulty you go, you're going to be looking at the max HP champions: Acrisia, Husk, Rogard. Rogard's not going to be as good in this rotation just because of the starting double force heads. So you're going to be bringing Husk, and Husk is always going. I think Husk is just generally better than Rogard because Husk has Provoke in his A1. I believe it's only 40% chance, but it's a double hit. So it's better than nothing. But Rogard hits harder. But Husk has that Provoke, which is very, very good. Yeah. And then you have Geomancer, which brings very strong damage, plus damage reduction. I mentioned Acrisia. Acrisia would be the best max HP champion. And then I kind of like went down, went to the right hand side with just general damage dealers. Ninja, Trunda is very good for like hard and below. Ninja is also very good for even brutal and below. The Rat is very strong. And Mishinaki is very strong. I've seen Mishinaki in Nightmare. He brings all sorts of stuff. AoE Hex as well. And well, he brings, I forgot what he brings. He does extra stuff against enemies with Hex. I forgot if he brings his own Hex. I know he has an HP burn. He does counter attacks, decreased defense. He's a very strong champion. But yeah, these are generally like what you're looking for damage dealers, or some variation of this. So HP burn, AoE nukes, poisons, and then some kind of just general versatile damage dealers. Yeah, general stats are on the right hand side here. So if you're bringing accuracy to Nightmare, you're looking at about 350 will cover most heads. Keep in mind that the Head of Suffering will boost accuracy requirements by a little bit because he boosts the resistance of the whole team. If you're going into Brutal, you're going to be looking at accuracy at about 275 accuracy for Brutal. Sounds about right. Accuracy for Hard, you're looking at about 200. And then accuracy for Normal, about 150 should be enough. Resistance, 350, probably going 350, 400, 450, 500 for Nightmare. But of course, you can have slightly lower values. You just have slightly reduced rate of success. But I don't have, not all my champions are like hitting benchmarks recommended. So, I'm fine with 91, 92% instead of like 96, 97%. It's fine. I don't really go all out on building my Hydra champions, only like my main ones. But yeah, so I hope this overview was helpful. I'll show you guys the team that I will probably be using. Just as an example, it's not like the best team in the world, but I basically run this type of team. Like Necmo brings speed up, speed down, attack down, leech. He brings a ton of stuff in a speed aura. He's probably one of the best carries for Hydra. Like Chris could probably be number one, but if you had to pick a number two, it'd probably be Necmo, and I don't think it's that far behind. He brings a ton. He brings a ton to any Hydra team. Yeah, he's really, really strong. And my provoker is Seeker. He's strong affinity, which is really fine. He has the turn meter boost, which is really good. It gives your teams more attacks. He has a conditional defense up, which is good because this team has no defense up. And yeah, he's a provoker, main provoker, double hit, 50%. It's about 75% on 2 hits. I think it's good enough, especially with the turn meter boosting. He's going to get a lot of hits in on the head of Decay. Geomancer is my damage dealer. Husk is my damage dealer, backup provoke. I do have a provoke set on Necmo, so it's like 3 provokers here. SHAMAEL is just going to be pumping the damage, powering my Necmo, who's powering my team. And then block buffs, AoE defense, decrease defense. Usually I run maybe one less damage dealer and I put in like Mithrala, for example. I could probably do that if my team was dying, but because Torment is in the opening rotation, it's a very safe run, so I feel very comfortable with 3 damage dealers here. Anyways, so this is my team. I'm probably going to run it maybe later tonight. I kind of want to showcase some different combinations, but it'll be depending on how much time I have. But yeah, I ran this type of team on my other account. I did like 55 million or something. It's a very easy rotation, to be honest. Any rotation with the opening Torment head, it just makes your runs super consistent because SHAMAEL is just super consistent against Torment. And yeah. Anyways, best of luck, guys. I hope you guys have SHAMAEL. If you guys don't, I hope I provide you guys with some options or insights on how to tackle this rotation. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Best of luck.